Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. I'm Rebecca Caroe, and as ever, I'm joined by Marlene Royle.
Hello, Rebecca, and hello, Faster Masters. Good to be here again today.
It certainly is good to be here. Now, let's kick off with a mention from our show sponsors. Firstly, the Rowing Products Directory. You'll remember I mentioned how tough lockdown has been for so many rowing businesses, and we want to help them all get back on their feet and get revenues flowing again. And so we're building a giant rowing directory page on the website, rowing.chat. Send us your favorite rowing product and the link to its web page, and we'll contact the firm for permission to add it to the page. Our goal is to have the page live this month. That means we have 3 days left. Contact us via the website rowing.chat and let's all pull together and support our wonderful businesses in rowing. Our second sponsor is the Speedcoach Summer Regatta Series. This is a way for rowers to race on the water and directly compare their performance to other athletes around the world. Nelson Kellerman has created this series so that people racing in small boats, principally singles, can upload their race session to an app. It's completely free to participate. And in the absence of other regattas on our summer calendar, we think this is a fabulous way to train and also measure your progress in ways other than erging and indoor training. You can find out more about the Speedcoach Summer Regatta Series on the sponsors page, which is rowing.chat/sponsor, and you'll find all the details there. Now, back to the action with Marlene. Marlene, weird times. How can people stay on their program at these times? Because there are so many distractions. I mean, motivation, I know I've been challenged.
Well, I think, again, keep your long-term goals in mind, and view your rowing as a process, and again, everything is going to depend on what your goals are, what you get out of your participation in the sport. Do you want to row really well for the aesthetic reasons? Do you want to win the head of the barrels one year in your single? Do you want to make a final in your national championship? Do you want to just feel really fit and positive and have rowing as a great way to start your day? Everything depends on what you want to get out of rowing, but I think you have to view it as a process. And I know it's difficult for people right now who don't have a race to go to, because the race focuses them and it's a goal for them and it's something to work towards. But I do think that if you abandon your program, the spiral down happens very quickly. And it's so easy to say, well, there really isn't anything pressing coming up, and I'm just going to kind of take it easy for a while. And, it's kind of like your habits. If one day leads to a second day, which leads to a third day, which leads to a fourth day, it's very easy to build a habit not to be on top of things, not to be really focused on your training. And it's just, you can take your training program, again, if this is what your rowing is all about for you personally, take your rowing program, you can scale it down. You can say, I'm going to put my technical focus on this for this month. And you can organize your drills or stay in your program or stay on your workout schedule with this. You can incorporate your workouts so that you're still building fitness, but maybe your stroke rates aren't just quite so high as they might be if you were getting ready to race. You can still stay on a program, even if you scale it down a little bit, that it's not as intense as you're focusing on, say, what would be our Masters Nationals or FISA Worlds at the beginning of September. I think if you have a program You're going to stick to it much better than if you don't have a program. And I know inevitably when people abandon their program, it just doesn't happen. You know, if you want to make improvements, you've got to stay on a program. Just scale it down. Maybe say, I want to row 4 days a week and I want to put in 2 extra days of cycling. I want to row 3 days a week, but make that decision so that it fits into your process. It's just really easy to say, oh, you've done all this great training and now you just start abandoning it, or you're just doing haphazard things. And then why lose all the fitness and all the work that you have done? You can row 3 times a week and maintain your fitness.
Definitely true. Now, a quick reminder, hello to everybody who's watching live. We can see you. And if you wish to ask a question for future podcasts or for this one, there's a link on the screen, fastermastersrowing.com/register/question-email, or you just go to our products page and you'll see the link there and you can buy a question. You can get answers in 3 ways: live in public here on the podcast, an email, or a private Zoom conversation with one of us. If you're watching live, though, you can join in with our discussion. You can do that by putting comments underneath the feed that you're watching. And I know some people are watching on Facebook. Hello to Facebook people. And some people are watching on YouTube. Hello to YouTube people. And we will endeavor to get to your comments during the show. Now, our first topic is a very serious one. It's very common: goose poo on the dock. Now, Marlene, you don't have this problem, not because you don't have geese.
Because I don't have a dock. we wet launch at my home club, so we don't have a dock with geese on it. But we have lots of Canada geese all around, but they're just not where we launch our boats.
We, on the other hand, have a hideous problem of goose poo. So in New Zealand, the native geese are not native geese. We have visiting Brent geese and we have white geese on our lake, but we also have native swans, which are black. And they love our pontoon. It's a nice, used to be a wooden surface. It now has a wonderful non-slip coating on it. And they just love hanging out there. And we used to have that system of some first one down gets the broom and starts sweeping it off and hosing it down. But we have found a new solution, and I offer it as a low-tech, low-cost solution to all of our listeners for Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Here's what we did. We got some buckets that had previously been used to hold paint, so they were reasonably large, couple of gallons with lids. And we half filled them with water and put the lid on. And then we used a rope to join together buckets in a daisy chain down the edge of the dock and also down the sides of the dock for where the geese prefer to sit. And believe it or not, the geese no longer sit there. And all we have to do is remember to put out the buckets and the rope after each outing. How about that for an easy solution?
Yes, that definitely works. And at Florida Rowing Center, that's what we used to do with the buckets. And we actually just drilled a hole, and then we would just like run the string through the handle. And they don't like that. And also those connected docks, which are those
Plastic.
The plastic modular docks. Most birds don't like that surface. So a lot of birds versus wood, they enjoy wood. They like natural materials, But the connected dock, they tend not to like it as much. And actually, when we had one wooden dock, which we had to use the buckets for, and then we had one connected dock. And when we went to 2 connected docks, the birds actually stopped coming on the dock. Or you could get a dog. Get a dog.
I guest rowed once in Austin, Texas. And they have a community rowing club there that is right on the bank of the river. And what they did when they finished rowing was they connected a regular garden hose to a little spray mounted unit that was just like in the corner of the dock. and it had a movement sensor. So whenever anything moved along there, which might be a dog or a pedestrian,
it was a
water,
right.
like a water bomb. I'd love to have that in our club, but sadly, I think that's reasonably unlikely simply because it's a public access area.
It's a little to zap everybody. Yes, and Austin has the bridge, which all the bats underneath it. So what you have to row under that bridge. Remember where all the bats are hanging under there? So
Get my backs.
Scary. It's scary, right?
Now, let's move on to our really big topic this week. We are going to talk about emergency stops in the rowing boat. Now, we've all had situations where there has been a requirement, a need, a drive, a desire to stop fast. Marlene, launch us in. How do you teach people how to do an emergency stop?
I just teach people when they're if they're at the release position to kind of 3/4 square their blades, slow down, and then finish squaring their blades and holding their handles against their body. I'm actually going to show you this picture. We've showed you vintage pictures before. This is a 1989 picture from a book, The Complete Recreational Rower and Racer by Steve Kiesling, who is the famous author of The Shell Game. And Steve came to Craftsbury in 1989 and filmed this book. And this is me demonstrating an emergency stop. And as you'll note, like this is before hatchet blades were invented, because see the spoon blades? Those are the spoon blades. That's at Craftsbury. Many years ago, 1989, I think in August or something. And that was kind of funny. We pulled that one off of the bookshelf. And this was this was one of the first books about recreational rowing, or, rowing that had been in a long time. So he actually did a really nice job on this book. But that's how I teach it. There's some other methods that people do. I think, Rebecca, you have another way that you like to teach people too?
I do. I teach it slightly differently, bearing in mind that most people learn from me at a total beginners class. They're Learn to Row, adult Learn to Row courses. And one of the first things I'm teaching, because I'm teaching people in single sculls, is the safe position, which is legs straight and arms straight. And that position is really useful because your oars are pretty much perpendicular to the sides of the boat. So you get maximum safety. If your blades are feathered and on the surface of the water, you also get maximum stability. So having taught people that position and reinforcing, if you feel nervous, go into the safe position. I then use the safe position to teach emergency stops. And so I have them easy into the safe position, blades flat on the water, and then lift the handles so the feathered blade goes under the water. And it's remarkably effective at stopping your boat quite fast. And then I teach them, once the boat has slowed down, then to square them, pretty much as Marlene explained and demonstrated.
I think that's actually, in some senses, that's a better way. To be honest with you, I just forgot about it. You just forget about it. After years and years, you just get in the like anything, you get in the habit of doing it this way. And I honestly, when I learned how to scull, I can't remember that anybody even taught me how to stop.
Huh.
I think in the single, I just, I had rowed sweep for many years before I got into the single. So, you just hold water like you do in Nate. But I do think that putting your blades flat and lifting the handles and pressing the blades down, especially if you're going fast, works to slow you down, then come to a complete stop.
One of the things I find with the Marlene's method of just going straight to the squares, that sometimes if you are going fast, the water kind of pushes your blade upwards and back into the air. It's quite hard to hold even a 3/4 square under the water. And so, yeah, I think it's a matter of practice.
Yeah.
Go try it.
Yeah, the important thing is you stop. Well, and that goes along with like looking around, making sure you're looking around so that you can hopefully avoid an emergency stop if possible. But it is something everybody should practice. It's a key key safety skill, absolutely. And you're going backwards, of course.
So we literally, the outing I did yesterday morning, we had two situations where there was potential for a collision, let's just say. So it was a dark early morning outing, and we were just coming to a buoy that we just angle around. It's like a kind of 30 degree angle. It's not very sharp, but there was a kayaker there, and he was paddling alongside us, and it was possible that he was going straight on and we wanted to take this turn. And so for the avoidance of the collision, what we did was we hollered out to him and told him what we were doing. So we said, kayaker, we are turning. We want to cut across in front of you. And bless him, he just slowed, stopped, and then went the opposite direction so that the boats didn't get anywhere near each other. And that was great. And the second situation was when we were returning to the dock. We have a local high school who are doing their learn to row at the moment. And there was a young man on the dock in a single who pushed off. He could see us. He was facing in our direction. He could see we were sitting waiting to dock, but there was a little bit of wind blowing. So we were aware that we were drifting and we were getting closer to him. So he pushed off, and then he realized that we were getting closer to him. So we said to him, go, Sculler, go. And eventually he paddled on just with one oar, and he had to lift his oar once just to get over our bow ball. But it was great because he very quickly got out of the way, and, we were able then to glide into the vacant space on the dock. But talking to people as well as looking around helps avoid emergency stops.
Absolutely. Actually, I had a situation in my master's class this morning that we row off of a public beach. So there's a large buoyed swimming area, and we're outside the swimming buoys. But sometimes people decide, we have a very nice lake. Sometimes people decide they want to swim out of the swimming buoys out into the open lake. And we had a situation this morning where a woman was swimming. She didn't have a bathe. She just had dark hair, was swimming, and there was a little bit of shadow, and it was actually quite difficult to see her in the water. Unlike at some lakes, you are required to wear a bright colored bathing cap if you're swimming outside of buoys anywhere. The more so, we've got a lot of singles rowing around, so there's a lot of blind boats. And I did actually, like you said, communication does wonders. I did actually go up to her and just say, be aware that this is the traffic pattern of our boats, and we're looking out for you, but you don't have any bright colors on. So if you're in the shadow, it's a little bit hard to see you, and that's just something you should be aware of. But if anybody is coming close to you and you are not sure that they see you, get our attention and talk to us or yell at us or let us know that you're there. That's sometimes people are afraid not to say, like fishermen are notorious for not saying anything.
Oh, and no, they can just,
yeah,
they
you can just, I know, or you can hit I've seen people hit a fishing boat, fall out of their single, climb back in, start rowing, and the fisherman doesn't say a word, so, maybe they're waiting for it. I don't know, but it seems to be universal in all countries.
They are a breed apart, very special. And let me say that, I have been fishing myself, and I have very many friends who are fishermen, and I don't know why they don't say anything, but they don't.
We have to invite one on a podcast and find out what really goes on when they're fishing.
Good points about knowing the local traffic patterns, particularly if you're on a public access lake. You can't presume that habitual circuits which you take are known by the other users. In fact, this week, our club safety officer is having a meeting with the canoe club, which happens to be, they're our next door neighbors. And we're both going to be talking about what to do. So we had a situation a couple of years ago where there were a large number of jellyfish in the ocean. And obviously we live very close to the ocean. Our lake is actually only 500 meters, straight line from the sea. But that meant that a lot of ocean swimmers came to swim at the lake, and they weren't used to swimming at the lake. And one of the problems with swimmers when they're looking up and sighting, which is, when they're looking the direction of they're traveling, often they will see a rowing boat because the boat is often light colored, and often they will not see the oars because the shaft of the oars are dark colored. So they don't realize we're actually a very wide vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Here is someone on Facebook who's chipped in to say, we have swimmers wear bright orange safety buoys. That's quite interesting. So that's like it drags behind them as they swim, but at least it stays on the surface.
Yeah, you see something. And when I lived in Whistler, at Whistler, the Alta Lake is also the lake where the Canadian Ironman is held. So a lot of it's a 2,000 meter lake. So a lot of swimmers train in the lake, and they actually buoyed off a separate swimming lane for the swimmers. Not all the swimmers would stay in the lane, but by the regulation, they have to wear bright colored bathing caps. And if they're doing long distance swims, they're actually, strongly encouraged to stay in the swimming lane. It's quite a large swimming lane, but then also the boats stay out of there. But that doesn't count the SUPs and the kayakers and the people who are in canoes. But at least with the rowing club, there was some coordination. But you just, when it's warm, and everybody wants to be out, especially right now, everybody wants to be out on the lake and doing things. So you have to just, be super careful.
One of the things that I notice is that public boating access areas do not have any safety instructions. On our lake, there are 3 places where the public it's easy to get onto the water. 2 of them actually have docks. And yet, maybe we should be talking to our local council about putting up a notice that says, convention says, please circulate in let me get this right. Direction, facing your direction of travel, and then say rowing boats go backwards so they circulate anti-clockwise.
Yeah, something like that. I know our lake, actually, there is only public access for non-motorized boats.
Huh.
Motorized boats, they're 2 access, but they're private access. But still, you have a lot of people in kayaks. You have a lot of residents on the lake. So you do definitely have to keep your eyes open and utilize emergency stopper. Never be afraid to talk to people and just get their attention if you're not sure.
Very good advice. Now, topical for the northern climes, a question about dealing with sweaty hands on the oars in hot weather. This person was saying that they my hands are slipping on the handle. This is Simone Freya. She says, presently, I just want to get out of the water at least every day. More sculling and rowing. I just love it. But sweaty hands in hot weather, I've got to solve this problem. Any great suggestions, please?
Yeah, row with your hands open on the recovery. That dries your palms. Once you feather, open your fingers and your thumb until you have to square, and that'll dry your hands.
That's a great suggestion. I like that. I hadn't thought of that one. I also thought that maybe there were a couple of things. Before you go rowing, do not put on hand cream or wear gloves when you're putting on your suntan lotion. But remember that those sorts of lotions, particularly on your hands, I think they take around 40 minutes to fully absorb. And so that the surface of your skin is no longer greasy. So ideally, put it on wearing gloves so that, rubber gloves, so that your hands do not get, you don't get sunburn on the palms of your hands. So you shouldn't need to have, UV cream on them. The other thing is perhaps have a little towel in the boat so that you can successfully dry them off. If you do get, if it does get really, really greasy. And the last thing is clean your handles. If you have wooden handles in sweep, they absorb hand sweat and then they kind of foam in this really nasty way when they get wet. And also, a bit of detergent on your sculling grips. I think that may help as well.
You could try those terry, like tennis players, those terry cloth wristbands that if you stop, you could just quick wipe your hands. That's another way. The other thing could be taking some of that, that tape that they put on tennis racket handles. Some of
Yeah.
it is a little bit velour-like, and that could be something you could maybe put a little bit of that over your oar handles to absorb it. You just have to see how that works. But like with sunscreen, I actually, if I'm going to be out in the sun for a long time coaching in the morning, I put the sunscreen on first thing when I wake up. And then I go wash my hands. I probably wash my hands 2 or 3 times before I actually, between that and before when I actually get into the boat. But I try to do that right away, exactly so you don't have that residue on your hands.
Yeah, that grip wrap tape, Durham Boats used to sell it as an alternative to rubber grips for their handles. So I actually have used blades in the past that use that. It's cricket bats, tennis rackets. It's a self-adhesive backing. And so basically you start it at a 45-degree angle and then wind it around the handle. It's probably best for wooden handled oars, not for your sculls, unless you want to take the rubber grip off. I wouldn't put it over the top of your rubber grip.
Okay, yeah, I haven't really used it, so.
Many sculling grips, so Stamfley grips have that cross-hatched surface area. Croaker grips have a ridge down them for your fingers, and I think that will make it extremely hard to get a tight bond on a grip wrap tape.
Martinoli's have that cross. They're like a Stamfley pattern, but the Martinoli grips are a synthetic versus the Stamfley are real rubber, so they're a little bit different, but the pattern is different. But that's another thing, is experiment with your grips, because that might, if depending on what oars you have, it depends on what brand oars you row with, but different grips could have a different effect too. But try the drying your palms when you're rowing. That I found it even works when racing. So
good advice. Our next question is about how to do a standing entry into the boat from the dock. This Rebecca Clark says, does anyone know of a how-to guide for rowers who are unable to do a standing entry? The best way would be to do it with pictures to illustrate technique options and illustrations of multiple different options, plus things to watch out for to minimize or prevent boat damage. This is a very real mobility issue for a lot of people. Thanks in advance. Well, I find that fascinating. If you are able-bodied, I'd like to make it clear, I am not talking about para rowing or people with knees that find it very difficult to step into a boat and then sit down in place. So people who are active and mobile, this is a basic skill and you should be able to do it. And it doesn't matter if you're doing sweep or sculling. How do you teach this, Marlene?
In the single, I teach, obviously the boat's next to the dock. I push the oar handles to the stern and then butt the 2 ends together like this. Okay, so the ends are together. Put one hand over the ends of the handles, pull back so the collars are against the oarlock. So you're forming a structure against your rigger, so you can put weight on it. And put 1 foot in on the seat dock. Hold the oars with your hand that is to the water side, not to the dock side, to the water side. With your dock side hand, either hold the oar shaft or the rigger, depending on your boat, which is more comfortable. Put 1 foot in on the seat deck, pull back on the handles and slightly up so you can put your body weight on it. And then bring the other foot in, but lower yourself down on one leg. Using the oar handles, you can support some of your body weight. So you can lower yourself down onto the seat and put 1 foot in the shoe and then get the other foot in the shoe. Or you can step in 2 feet and then lower yourself down. But that's if you don't have any range of motion problems with your knees or your hips. That's how I would do it standing. But you've got to, if you butt the handles together, you can put some weight against it. So you can support some of your upper body weight to help you lower yourself down, and to get out, you can pull against that to stand up too.
Perfect. And that's exactly how I teach it. I will add one more thing. If you want to push away from the dock simultaneously, put 1 foot in, leave the other foot on the dock and push really hard. and you should drift at least sort of 2/3, over half of the length of your outboard of your oar, before you sit down. And then it's very easy then just to push off the dock for the last, couple of feet. Now I'm going to tell you how to do this in a sweep boat. So in a sweep boat, the method is a little different because obviously you can't control 2 oars. You only have 1 oar each. So the way we teach that is you all stand on the dock and everybody pushes their outside hand down so that the edge of the handle is touching the side of the boat. It's on the sax board. Everybody. The coxswain, if you've got a coxswain, needs to already be sitting in the boat. Otherwise, they'll get left behind on the dock. Then you lean the entire boat towards the water. So it'll be tilted like this. And that means that the boat side oars are flat. They're feathered, flat on the water. And the dock side oars are high up in the air. Then everybody puts 1 foot onto the deck of the boat, leaving 1 foot on the dock. And when the coxswain calls it, they say ready, push, or if you're American, you say shove. And everybody pushes off simultaneously, leaving the boat at that same angle. And then the boat glides away from the dock. And once you have cleared your oars, then you can bring the boat back to level and sit down. And you're then away from the dock and successfully launched from a standing entry. Well, it was easy.
Yeah.
I've got to do it.
But if you have to practice, I always say that maybe people don't watch how you always row on the water, but they do see how you get in and out of the boat at the dock. So if you have to, go into, come to the boathouse at a time when nobody's there and practice.
Definitely. We used to call it boathouse rowing. And it was a call that basically meant, look pretty, dressage. You've got to look good because someone might be on the balcony watching.
Right. With their camera for the local newspaper.
Oh, I do hope not. Now, for our Faster Masters subscribers this month, in the performance module, we're going to be talking about docking. Now, this is mostly about returning to the dock. So it would be the parallel lesson to the one we've just given for free here on the podcast. And remember, we have 6 separate modules that if you're a subscriber for the individual, crew, or coach program, you get all 6 modules, including the performance module. If you're a magazine subscriber, you do get the performance module. You don't get the training plan and you don't get the land training. And so coming up for the August subscribers, which will be coming live obviously on the 1st of August, we're going to be talking about different methods of docking.
Infinitely harder than pushing away from the dock. Plus you're tired. You're tired when you're coming back into the dock.
Yeah, a lifetime's practice, I just like to say.
Mm-hmm. Especially to look good. It's like, learning how to parallel park, right?
Good point. So my oldest friend, her surname before she married was Parker. And when we were both learning to drive, she got very, very good at parallel parking. And she used to say, Parker by name, Parker by name.
The best is when you can pull in between, if there are two boats on the dock and a slot in the middle, and you can slot right into the middle. That's good. It
is. And that's part of the explanation that I have written for my part of this performance module.
Yeah, it's good. I saw it already.
Now, from our listeners, Cece has said, from last week's podcast, we have some feedback. As assigned, she said, I practiced the drill you presented last week to lighten your hands at the catch so you don't drive before the blade's in the water. It's hard to do and kind of scary, but the more I tried it, the more I could feel the load on my feet at the catch. I will continue to practice. Thank you. Cece, that's brilliant. You are doing exactly the right thing, and the feeling you get is exactly what it's designed to achieve.
But remember, it's when we were talking about it, it's just a quick, you don't actually let go of your handles, just take the tension off your handles. so the handles are free, so you can feel. So it's even less than a micro, like a micro movement. It's just a mini micro movement, but it's enough to let your blade bury. Remember, if we were looking at a video, a really good timing of a blade getting buried is about 3 frames on a video. So if you think about the that's your set. You've got to include the entry and the set, not the entry set go.
I'm going to correct you about 3 frames. Sorry, Marlene. That was on VHF video. Nowadays, you don't stand a chance of getting your blade buried in 3 frames because the resolution and the speeds of cameras nowadays is just so much faster. Sorry.
Well, when I do it on Coach's eye, it's like
Okay. Well, I stand corrected.
Listen, the quicker the better. The quicker the better. The quicker the better. But you can get a sense of that micro pause. Watch some people like Kim Brennan, or somebody who's got like a really beautiful entry where the blades, they just disappear. They just disappear, and get a sense of that distance of the blade does take a fraction bit of time, but you have to allow for that in your stroke.
You certainly do. Well, that's all for this week on Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Thank you to everyone who was watching live. It was great to have you with us. And till next time, it's goodbye from me.
And see you next week.
Bye-bye.